Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by oldschoollane.blogspot.com and is associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and the Reopen Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida Facebook page. Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia and I'm here with a very special guest. You may know him as an artist and an animator who has worked on various things, from interstitials to cartoons and to writing. I have here Joey Ahlbum. Joey, welcome to Casual Chats.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, I would like to know, what were your influences for doing drawing and animation?
I think growing up, I loved classic Saturday morning cartoons like Huckleberry Hound and all those great Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And then I also fell in love with the Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Roadrunner cartoons.
Has your passion always been about doing drawing, or was this like a second passion and you wanted to do something else afterwards?
No, I always was drawing from an early age. And then somehow I got it into my head that I wanted to make the drawings move. I wanted to do animation.
Okay.
I could remember distinctly one time telling my grandmother that I wanted to do animation, and she said, "Oh, you don't want to do that. It's way too much work."
In order for you to prove to your grandmother that you wanted to do animation, how did you convince her to otherwise?
I don't know if I ever convinced her that, because the truth is it is a lot of work, but I think, you have to follow your passion. That's what kept me going.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, especially in this day and age in which a lot of people are out there doing their own unique things, and they become successful in their own right.
Yes, that's right. And fortunately, animation is and always will be a lot of work, but some of the drudgery of it has been replaced by computers, and that's a good thing, like the coloring every frame and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure for some people who do appreciate animation, they do like various styles, whether it be the traditional cel-shaded or color and paint or even computers. But I feel that each and every single one of the styles has their own distinctive look and their own distinctive personality compared to all the others. If you were to see like either computers or stop motion or 2D or 3D, they all have their own way of showing animation in a very unique and brilliant way.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's nothing more pleasing than a lovely, handmade flip book, and there's nothing, and Toy Story is also a, beautiful movie, and the whole range in between.
Mm-hmm. So eventually you went over to SVA, the School of Visual Arts, and you learned how to do some animation there. And I was wondering, for maybe some of our younger listeners who may not know, but you appeared in the Nickelodeon show Lights, Camera, Action, hosted by Leonard Nemoy. What was your experience with that?
Yes, I don't actually know. Was that a Nickelodeon show?
Yeah, it was actually. It was 1983.
Oh,
it was one of the very first Nickelodeon shows. Yeah, it was. It actually did air on Nickelodeon.
I never actually knew that. That's really funny. But yeah, when I went to CA, my thesis film was called Bandits, and that I think it won an award from a magazine called Cinemagic, which was a magazine mostly about sort of special effects and I think even some like Super 8 filmmaking. But in any case, they had a segment on this show with the winners, and so I got to be interviewed by Leonard Nemoy, and a nice claim to fame.
So, I mean, what was he like in real life?
He could not have been nicer. He took an interest in what we presented him. He was genuinely enthusiastic. Just a really great guy.
In a little while, we're going to see some more from your winning film called Bandits. It's a 7-minute film. How long did it take you to make this 7 minutes of film work?
It took about 2 years.
2 years?
That's right.
Why?
Well,
the film lab was slow, I know.
No, there's a lot of work in it. Thousands of drawings have to be made, thousands of cells and backgrounds.
Now, you were working on this part-time because you were in school at the time, am I right?
Well, actually, at School of Visual Arts, Bandits was my thesis project, so I was able to devote at least 16 hours a day to the film.
16 hours a day?
That's right.
For 2 years?
For 2 years.
Well, that's a lot of work for a 7-minute film.
Well,
incredible. Now, aside from patience and dedication and stick-to-itiveness, all of those things, what talents does a person need to be an animator?
Well, for my kind of animation, it really helps if you can draw. And I recommend life drawing for that, because you have to be able to see people, and I think life drawing helps you do that.
So eventually you did a whole bunch of interstitials for various networks, including Nickelodeon. So where did the idea for the doo-wop dino interstitials come from?
Yes, at that time, Fred Seibert and Alan Goodman, they had an agency together, and they were responsible for producing those IDs. They had this really terrific music producer named Tom Pomposello. Sadly, is not with us anymore. And so he produced all these tracks with the doo-wop group, the Jive Five. And then he would reach out to various animators with different styles and you would get a track, and he would say, go crazy, but make sure you feature the Nickelodeon logo as many times as possible in as many different ways as possible.
When looking at all of your work throughout the years, you have this infatuation with dinosaurs. Where did the love of dinosaurs come from?
I think, they're really, for kids and for adults too, they're really magical because they were here, but they're not here anymore. And I think that really sparks our imagination. Beasts of all different shapes and sizes, they roam the earth, but they're gone. And I think there's something amazing about that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think there is, because there's such a fascination in there. You can believe, like, long ago, there was these giant creatures that roam around and took territory, and they hunted, they grazed, they did a whole bunch of things, and it builds a fascination, whether it be like books or TV shows or various things. I mean, even still, we are infatuated with dinosaurs, whether it be like Jurassic Park or more recently with Dinosaur Train. So it really, I mean, regardless of, how much time has passed, it seems like there's always a group of people who are infatuated with dinosaurs.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think each, new generation of kids, you just can't help it. I mean, you go to the Natural History Museum and you see the bones, and how can that not, really get you excited about dinosaurs?
Oh, absolutely. Every time that I visit New York and I go to the Natural History Museum, the first thing you walk in and you see, the giant T-Rex.
Yes.
So, right before I go into another project with dinosaurs, we talked briefly about, I think it was last year, about Nick's Thanksgiving Fest. So,
yes, that's right.
So, why don't you give some more information about your experience for maybe to the listeners who haven't seen the video that I did about a year ago about the subject?
Yeah, so around that time, after doing some IDs and stuff, Nickelodeon was starting to play around with the idea of doing their own produced long-form content. And so I guess they felt like the best way to try that would be to do a special, a half hour. And that's how Thanksgiving Fest was born. My segments were kind of all the kind of wraparound segments in the show. I worked primarily with Vanessa Coffey on that, who's kind of a legendary producer at Nickelodeon. And it was a great experience. The hard part for me was that was back in the production days of, it was still ink and paint and cell and shooting on film. So there was a certain amount of, I won't say nightmare, but there was a lot of work to that part of it. Whereas today it would have been a lot easier to do.
Sure. I mean, it makes a lot of sense considering that, Nickelodeon wasn't known for animation back then. They were mostly acquiring all their cartoons. So for them to take this massive risk to see if maybe, can this network create their own cartoons? We don't know. So I'm sure it must have been a huge risk for pretty much everyone who was involved with it.
Yes, I think so. I think they probably were going against conventional wisdom, but eventually it did end up paying off for them big time.
Yes, it did.
Some Americans prefer to provide Thanksgiving dinner in the traditional way of our forefathers. Take this intrepid fellow. Well, it certainly looks like he bagged Thanksgiving dinner. Nice shot, sir. What did you get? A turkey? A pheasant? A duck?
Are you kidding? I'm a vegetarian.
So because of that, it was able to give people such as yourself to create pilots for Nickelodeon. And I'm sure maybe you'll want to share your story. So what was the story behind Thunder Lizards?
Yeah, Thunder Lizards was it sort of came out of the popularity of the doo-wop Dinos. Do something with dinosaurs. Basically, in a nutshell, it was rock and roll dinosaurs. We had, incredible music by a composer named Peter Lorre, who's done a lot of stuff for Disney Channel, and a lot of stuff for Nickelodeon since then. We had an incredible theme song that he wrote, and we had a really cute story. I worked with a friend of mine named Mark Catapano, who was kind of the co-creator.
And when pitching the pilot, why didn't it get picked up?
I don't totally know. Sometimes these things are a mystery that you don't actually always find out. We tested very well. Maybe we tested a little bit younger than they wanted, but we tested with, all signs were looking good, but they just decided not to go with it.
I understand. Well, I just want to let you know that I did a series of podcasts for another YouTube channel called the Nickelodeon Slimecast Podcast, and we did a section of videos called Nicksmissal, where we discussed about projects from Nickelodeon that didn't happen. And when we when we posted our episode on Thunder Lizards, there were people who actually wanted to see Thunder Lizards come to life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever created something or, had put so much into something, but in my mind, in like an alternate universe, it's a smash hit because I just think it had everything there. It had fun design, it had fun music, and it had a cute story and great characters. But, the Freaks and Geeks only lasted one season, and, things happen. It doesn't always make sense.
Right, of course. So during that time, you did a whole bunch of other animation for other TV shows. I'm sure for maybe our younger audience who may remember, you did the segments for Elmo's World.
Yes, that's right. I started doing work for Sesame Street. The first thing I did was actually a new credit crawl that they had not replaced for many years, and that ended up running for 10 years. And I did some fun segments within the show. One of my favorites was called Tall, Short Texans, which was a kind of a country music piece. And then along came Elmo's World, and I ended up doing, I think, over 60 episodes of the animation that went on the TV set.
And were you the one who came up with like the drawings for the different topics, or did they give you the topics and then you just drew over them?
Yes, the way that would work was, they wrote the script. A lot of the time it was a song. But then, other than that, I pretty much had free range to do what I wanted to do. The storyboard was all mine. And then the other key factor there, besides Sesame Street has so many great writers, but Andrea Martin did all the main character voice, and she's a pretty famous comedian and actress, and she came from SCTV, and she's amazing.
Another thing you did afterwards was that you decided to write your books about Lucy the dinosaur. So what made you decide to...
Thank you so much for mentioning that.
You're very welcome. So what made you decide to write books about the character?
It had a long history, but I had a daughter, and when she was young, I kind of played around with the idea of doing something that would be girl-centric and something she would like. So that's kind of how the character was born. Flash forward maybe 10 or 15 years, and she's now a teenager, but Fred Seibert came to me with the idea of doing a bunch of short ebooks that would be released fairly quickly. And that's how we did the first 10 Lucy the Dinosaur ebooks.
And also, another thing that you do, especially for the aspiring artists and animators, is that you also have a YouTube channel and you post various tips and tricks about doing art and doing animation. So is this kind of like your way of, similar to what you were saying before, with, the internet becoming like a vast world of learning things, that you wanted to put your lessons for maybe the future artists and animators who are interested in learning more so they can probably go to the industry?
I was trying to do it in a little bit of more of a humorous way, I guess. Like, I always liked those classic, they used to make these classic cartoons where it was like, let's go to the zoo, and it was all these funny gags about going to the zoo, or a trip to New York City, and the people are writing in sardine cans and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to do tutorials, but with a lot of humor in them. I guess you could say very dry humor, but it's still humor, nevertheless. So that was kind of where that came about.
Okay, great. And also, to wrap things up, what kind of advice would you have for any up-and-coming animators who want to be able to get their stuff going, or maybe want to pitch a cartoon, or just want to do drawing in general?
Yeah, I think that it's a great time for animation, just because you have this potential audience of millions of people that is, it's just one button away on YouTube. Of course, the downside to that is that it's a very crowded field, and it's easy to get lost and easy to get discouraged. But I would say, do what you love, draw all the time, and make short films and see what happens.
All right. Well, that's great. So I think we can wrap things up. So, Joey, do you have anything to plug or self-promote?
Well, I did just recently finish working for Frederator Studios on their pre-K channel called Fredbot. And we turned out 30 really terrific films. I would love if people would check that out. And then, in addition, I'm all over the various platforms, like we all are. But there's JoeyAhlbumBooks.com, and I'm also on Twitter, and there's a Facebook fan page, too.
Great. And that should be it for this episode of Casual Chats. Joey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk and for all this really interesting information. I really do appreciate it.
Patricia, thank you so much for having me, and hopefully next time we'll get the Google Chat thing working.
Yeah, definitely. Or maybe, who knows, maybe the next time I visit New York, maybe we can meet up or something.
That would be great. Have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that. All right, and let us know in the comments below about your earliest memories with Joey's work, whether it be the doo-wop dino interstitials, whether it be Elmo's world, whether it be his books. Let us know. I'm sure that the both of us would love to see that. All right, so that is it for this episode. Hope to see you around soon, and thank you for listening.
I'm here